Sophie Nevill, and I'm a psychotherapist and meditation teacher. That's kind of what I personally do. And then I'm also the founder of a festival called Heart of the Rose, and recently a festival called Brotherhood of the Rose, which also brings in the men. And I'm inheriting a very large amount of land where I run the festivals and where I'm also building a retreat centre to honour the rose and the return of the feminine on the planet at this time. So, when I was younger, I had a really profound awakening where the personal self that I had taken myself to be dissolved. And I experienced myself as everything and nothing. And at the time, I didn't really have the language. So I went to go find lots of different teachers, specifically Advaita and non-duality. And that teaching was always about, you are not your mind, you are not your body, stay as awareness. And for me, I had experienced that, and I realized I was more than just my mind and body. But what I also started to realize was that that could also subtly lead to a bypassing in some way. That at the same time as the awakening, I was also training as a psychotherapist. And I was like, how am I meant to hold this very profound awakening I just experienced, that I'm not ultimately this mind and thoughts and body and so much more, and also hold the very real stories of my clients coming to me. And I saw a teacher and she said, hold the story, but hold it lightly. And for me, this is the feminine path of awakening, the feminine path of descent, which is how do we awaken to the one that is beyond this mind and beyond time and beyond space, and also honor our humanness and this unique incarnation and our emotions and our story without bypassing either. Because in the past, awakening was predominantly transcendent in nature. It was trying to seek a God out in the sky, usually projected as male. And by doing this, we separated God from matter. We separated the sacred from matter. And we made this land, this body, these emotions as less than. They were somehow less than spiritual. We had to go to a monastery to find God, or we had to take vows of chastity to connect more to God. It was always about getting up and away from this body, away from this world, to find the sacred. And so by doing that, we've inadvertently become very disembodied and disconnected. And for me, this path that is so needed on the planet right now is this path of descent, which is the feminine path, which is, we've had the upward triangle and now we need the downward triangle. And in some traditions, the crown chakra for women is actually the base chakra. We don't find spirituality through concept, through intellect, through transcendence. We find it through the body, by constantly being brought down through our cycles, through birth. We find it through being interconnected with the cycles of the moon and the cycles of life. And because this hasn't really been honored, because we've lost touch with it, it is now important that we kind of bring this back. And so for me, this path of descent is remembering that this body is sacred, that this land is sacred, that our cycles are sacred, that God can be found just as much here as it can be up there. So, yeah, for me that's the path of descent. So for me, the feminine is the emotions, the body, the land. And there's a beautiful Sufi called Llewellyn Vaughan Lee, and he said, women contain within themselves the seed of creation differently from men, because whether or not they choose to bring the light of a soul through their bodies, they can ultimately bring light down into form differently to men. And when women remember that, they remember it for all of creation. It's this interconnectedness that women inherently experience through their bodies that is different to men. And so for me, the rise of the feminine is around remembering our interconnectedness with life, because we have been so living up here and in intellect and in concept, and lost touch with the feminine, with the body, with emotions, with the cycles. For me, the rise of the feminine is honoring the cyclical nature in all of life and also within ourselves, and also honoring the heart. You could say the masculine is more maybe dominant in concept, in intellect, in thought, and the feminine, one could say, is more concentrated in the heart, in emotions, in nurture, and we contain both within ourselves, but we've lost touch because it hasn't been safe on this planet to truly be in our hearts. We've been conditioned to be in our heads. And even the feminine within men has been massively repressed. It's not safe to feel your emotions as a man, or it hasn't been in the past. Like, there's an intelligence in that because men have had to go to war and they've had to shut down in that. And so this rise of the feminine is coming back down from our minds, down back into our hearts, into this space of connection with all of life and each other, so that ultimately all can come back into balance, because we have lost touch with that. And women are inherently, the way shows, just inherently because of the way we're made, we are inherently connected more to life, so we can help be the way shows for all to remember what it is to follow our cycles, to come back into the heart. And it's why also I'm creating Brotherhood of the Rose, because it's like the brotherhood of the feminine. The rose is a symbol at this time that is kind of coming back to our collective consciousness, that represents this path of the Divine Mother, of divine love, of the heart. And so it's about remembering that path for all and within all. I mean, the Aramaic prayer originally was not our Father in heaven, it was our Mother, Father in heaven. So we have literally written out the feminine in history, his story, and it's kind of time to now bring her back for the good of everyone. It's about honoring the cycles again and just coming back to allowing ourselves to rest, that resting is just as important as doing, and that's just as productive in some way, if you want to say. When we used to go, when women used to menstruate, we used to go into the red tent, actually the whole community would do that. So it was a time for everyone to rest and everyone to come together and go into dream time and go into connection time and to stop. And we've lost touch with that. We've lost touch what it is to be together, to live together consciously, to support one another, to work with the land in that way. Because we've just been going. So if we can just come back to the cycles, I feel like that's going to really support any community in coming back to the land, in the return of the feminine, and coming back to the heart, and slowing down, because we've been so in our heads that we can't feel. And so the more we can slow down, the more we can start to feel again. Slowly but surely. What I teach, because what my own awakening experiences has led me to, is when the personal self dissolved, I experienced a whole new level of stillness, like very profound stillness, more than just a concept. And that's what I teach. And I teach predominantly that and psychotherapy. So for me, it's both and. Like every ashram should have psychotherapy too, in my opinion. Like every path that involves awakening beyond the mind should also have psychotherapy as well, how to work with the mind. And so for me, trying to cultivate peace is ultimately how much can we truly start to turn our attention more to the stillness within, the stillness of the heart, than the crazy conditioned mind that we've been living in. And the more that we rest there, because whatever we put our attention to grows, the more that will start to ripple out, because the more we are in the stillness of the heart that's always here, this ever-present stillness from which all is born from and goes back into, the more that we can allow this stillness, this peace, to move us rather than from the conditioning or fear-based mind that we've been living in. So for me, the most important thing that we can do as a collective to have peace is to come back to this stillness, to meditate as much as we can, to become aware of our minds so that we can be in the world, present, fully here. Because right now we think we're in our body, but really we're in our mind thinking about our body. And it's so important that we can actually start to very slowly and so gently start to feel the body again, to really be here. And through that, then we can actually take grounded action in the world. That's from a place of presence rather than from a place of maybe lack or fear. Well, right now, we're predominantly seeing through the veil of the mind, which has been conditioned by trauma. So the more that we can see through the veil of the mind and the conditioning that we've been living in, which is also rooted in duality, which is I'm over here and you're over there, and somehow one's right, one's wrong, this is it. The more we can transcend that and see through that for what it is, just ultimately a thought, the more we can come back into the heart. And the more we do that together, there's that amazing saying, well, not saying, that supposedly Jesus said, where it was like, where one or more gather, there I am. If we can do that collectively, that creates a field of the Buddha field that we can all start to ultimately affect each other. Our presence, our seeing through the collective trauma also ripples out to other people's, because you're bringing more ultimate light and presence into the distortion from which we've been living in. And the more we can see through that, the more we can help wake others up to that as well. I do believe that we are moving into a golden age. Like, I genuinely believe that we're in a very profound transitional period. And for me, the most important part I'm realizing through the work I'm doing or being guided to do, because it wasn't even me that wanted to do Art of the Rose. It was actually, I asked the land, I'm inheriting what she wanted, and she showed me a women's festival. So I just followed. And I think that's part of it. Us listening to what she wants rather than trying to have power over and trying to think that we know best, but actually listening more. We were first, the original kings and queens were sovereign first to the land and then to the people. So coming back to that. And also, she also showed me to then do the men's festival. And there's something about healing and integrating our inner feminine and our inner masculine to come back into whole humans, embodied humans in some way, and living more from our heart and less from the fear of the mind that we've been conditioned to live from. So I'm very much looking forward to that day where there is more peace on the planet and more love in our hearts, and that we are more integrated, kind humans to ourselves and to others. That's my other thing, is what is the kindest thing you can say to yourself? That's my whole private practice is called that, so that we can start to heal, not from shame or judgment or blame, but from just kindness and forgiveness and healing together for all our unconsciousness, because we haven't been conscious. We know not what we've done. Time to heal. Yeah. I feel like part of this new age is us moving from kind of spiritual children, looking outside of ourselves for someone to save us or blame, and actually moving into this next stage of spiritual adulthood where we're really realizing that we are the medicine, that we are the ones literally that we've been waiting for, that we do have the power to birth this new earth. So I wanted to share. Thank you.